Hi, my name is Najia Khaled, and I'm doing a poetry reading for Trascender magazine. And I have this lovely book, Wonders, Witch Talkers, which I released a bit over a year ago. And I will also be reading some completely new material that I just wrote this past April for NaPoWriMo. And then I'll close with 2 poems that I have never released anywhere before on the internet. So, from Wonders, Witch Talkers, I just want to read this quote to open us up. Witches are the embodiment of a world of female subjects that capitalism had to destroy. The heretic, the healer, the disobedient wife, the woman who dared to live alone, the obeah woman who poisoned the master's food. It's from Sylvia Federici, Caliban and the Witch. And on that note, this first poem is called Witch. My magic is a product of necessity, of wicked, intrepid urgency, of quiet, inspired lunacy. Women like me don't bother to rein in our greed. There can be no sin in anything that I achieve with such artless enchantment. I reign in my mythology, in every story ever conceived. Stars blossom and seethe under my feet. This next one is called Rhymed. I want to pry you open like an exotic fruit, to sink my thumbs into the give of you, to split you wide through a thick, stubborn skin, a pit like a worm in dark, fleshy earth. I want you with a strange compulsion of a curse. I want you with a steady ache of starvation, the patient swell of hunger that I diligently nurse. You guys don't have to be so quiet.
Damn.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. This one is called Blackberries, Brambles. That includes during the poems. This is to your heart's content. There's a resentment budding in my gut as something from a swallowed seed. It lies dormant and deadly, a steady outdripping of poison, thick as a sap to be tapped, to be harvested. I fear it will overrun my careful pruning, will corrupt the soil it grows in with its violent outshootings, will turn every bit of me into its grisly garden, will make you feel its sting.
Okay.
This one is a love poem, and it's called Arabian Nights. Perhaps we are both made up of subtle mysteries, arcane secrets that we press into each other's palms. Perhaps I possess 1,001 tiny illuminations, my skin a Moroccan lantern, your face aglow with projected light. Perhaps there is the blood of an Uqba ibn Nafi within me, and I could make a conquest of you. And perhaps I would try, but empires have fallen for less than the feel of your hand in mine. This one is called Delicate Position. Morning dawns, head aching bright, and I feel I could carve out the sun with a spoon, scrape a star from the sky, fling a god from his chariot. I go back to sleep. That's a cute one. This one's about psychiatric drugs, and it's called Sonnet to Sertraline, which is the generic name of Zoloft. You'll be my death in battery acid, globules of poison brought to me in teaspoons and thimbles with their placid edges, upturned and waiting for you, Commander, to give them their duty. Dispatch your soldiers then, your ragtag team of trinkets, emboldened, fit to snatch the air from underneath my fingers, mobilized as they are. Give me mouthfuls of doubt, like mesmerisms of light, like swallowing heat, that which pulls my chest further into itself with each draft. Little by little, I'll break free. Give it to me. Give it to me. True.
True.
Except I then went off that medication with no psychiatric supervision. Okay, this one's funny. This one
loves.
is called
Understanding
One for
wisdom.
Sorrow.
Right.
Yeah, right. And it's about a European superstition about magpies. I've got a kind of magpie magic that I cultivate whenever you're around. Peculiar and fanciful, my familiar, my own self. I swallow superstitious horror, omen, portent, harbinger. I safeguard stolen scraps of silver. I revel in your evangelism. I am a charm, a mischief, a murder, a tiding, all on my very own. This one is called Rewind, and it is about colonialism and also being mixed race. I dreamt I was a necromancer, dreamt I was a demigod who resurrected cultures, peoples, skin and teeth and bones and hair. I dreamt I was a logician, clinician, an imagined anthropologist, a linguist tinged with dark, dark magic. Drew dialects into my mouth, reawakened languages, undid 100 years. But it's a heavy, pricey spell. I take the weight of ages and ages, the yokes of 7 continents claying upon my pale brown hands.
Damn.
Damn.
Does she?
Stop. Oh, I like this one. This one is called Tumble Dry. And the earliest of these poems I wrote when I was 14, and the latest of them I wrote when I was 19. This was like
Jesus.
16. Yeah.
Yes.
Tumble Dry. Laundry day came in a tumult of procrastination, fingers worn as rags, skin eggshell white and dry, pale porcelain with cracks and freckles, the heart a fleshy yolk, yellow with jaundice and indecision. And a chore as mundane as folding linen became a metaphor, fertilized and fit for breaking open.
Yay.
Oh.
Okay.
This one is called Animal, and it actually came from a game that I played on Tumblr where I invited people to send me a word into my inbox, and I would write a word with that. I would write a poem with that word in under 5 minutes. The word was howl, I think. You cajole me with hundreds of mouths, a roar and a screech and a hiss and a howl, something hideous, something foul that lurks nocturnal outside my window, that wakes me up with a piteous growl.
Yeah.
Gotta hydrate.
It's important. My voice is my instrument. It's important. Here are my notes. This one is another love poem. I joke that I only write 4 kinds of poem, and one of them is a love poem. And they're all gay.
Yeah.
In case anyone needed
Just to be
clarification,
clear.
you know.
Already.
Don't hijack this shit. Yes. And this one is called Devotion. I adore each thing you've touched, separately. I afford to every object its due reverence. You left your fingerprints on a glass yesterday, and I touched each impression in oil, one after the other, an offering in miniature, a phantom kiss. Over a smear of lipstick you've left on a spoon, I ghost my lips. So I guess that one was
That's sexy.
pretty gay.
I like. I like.
Very good.
The poems that I wrote from the time I was 14 all used she pronouns. They were all gay, and I didn't even realize I was gay.
Wow.
I
Levels.
feel like that's a pretty good sign, you know.
I knew. So this one is called Neither Pink Nor Pale, which is a quote from an Edna St. Vincent Millay poem, and I remember reading it, and neither pink nor pale seemed to me to describe a woman with dark skin. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I read another interpretation that involved her being like neither fully dead nor fully alive, and I was like, that's fair. That's a fair interpretation, but mine's better. So this is called Neither Pink Nor Pale. And it is an unmetered sonnet, because Edna St. Vincent Millay inspired me to write sonnets. I am luminescent in patches and strings, full bursting heavy with gluttonous weeds, a witchy abundance of small deadly things, trailings of light like colors of beads. I am resplendent in tatters and rags, nor holy, nor wretched, nor fallow, nor fair, a desolate wonder of caverns and crags, glories of skin and messes of hair. I am magnificent in carpets and furs, a classical marvel of marble and oil, perfumed and heady with incense and myrrh, bright and conflagrant with trouble and toil. I am incandescent and ancient and rare. I am the sorcery that sorcerers beware.
Ooh, yes.
Here's another one that was inspired by someone else's poem, by Shakespeare, Sonnet 130, and it is called Black Wires, or Ode to Women of Color. I don't have skin like ivory, no roses bloom within my cheeks. I blush in livid, vivid blue, deep bloodshot violet, a sickly hue. I don't have breasts like driven snow, no flaxen fields wave in my hair. I rush in amaranthine pools, deep, bloodshot, violent, an oath, a dew.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
The distinction between my poetry voice and my
Thank you.
I do too. I enjoy that.
La-di-da. Okay. This one is one that I interpret as like the cornerstone of this book. And it is called Hallowed Ground, and it is a poem in 3 parts. 1. Heaven is not a place for wanderers, witch talkers, women with words between our teeth. We purveyors of sinister magic, we perpetrators of wicked misdeeds. We who are muck and mire and marrow, stuck hollow to the soil beneath our feet. We whose blood bubbles thick, arcane and dark. We with candlewick tongues, we with cauldron hearts.
Yes.
2. Ours are the whispers that seethe in the streets. Ours are the fires and the sinkings of stones. Ours the desires that brew and that breed. Ours the rebellions. Ours what we've sown. Ours are the murmurs that churn in the dark. Ours the disquiet and ours the alarms. Ours the awakenings and glyph, linchpin, charm. Rabbit foot, lion heart, we cultivate harm. 3.
Okay. Okay.
I have become enamored with pain, with sickness and rot, with the roilings of rage, with things we can wield. I have become enchanted by sorrow, by illness, unrest, the things we can conjure, the things we've worn best. I am in love with the magic that nestles inside of my breast, infirm and unmotherly, mine and my own, cold as a witch's teat, dry as a bone.
Yes. Yes.
That one's also about being chronically ill. Here's one that I wrote when I was 14. It's called I Am Not Yours, Though I Would Like to Be. Would like to be not drowned, only eclipsed in an onrush of tidal structure, yours in the least binding sense of the word. Would like to lose at least part of myself in you. But I can find in you only a cadaver, ghastly and immaculate, white as a wedding gown and more pristine.
Okay, 14-year-old Najee.
I know. Calm down. Somebody should have told her to take a nap.
You had them
Take a
big
nap.
feelings.
Yeah.
Big words and big
You
feelings.
had them big words for your big feelings.
Here's
I love
a-
that picture, by the way.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's
very
a
nice.
selfie in my bathroom. This one is one that I wrote just before publishing this book, and it's called Anything at All. I am the answer, I am fronds of fire, I am dire, pure, religious awe. I am a dirge beat out on bells, beat out on sticks, beat out on the naked swell of my thighs. I am golden, molten, shimmering, I am my tongue and I am my skin. I am a roped off room to die in. I am a small copper pot full of sin.
Yes.
Full of sin.
Yes.
You know it.
I love it.
Yes.
Oh, this is a poem that I wrote for my abuser. It's called Infamy of Crete, because he had just like, anyway, I left the house, and I was walking, and I remember keeping the light behind me so that I would know if he came up behind me, because I would see the shadow.
Jeez.
And it references the Minotaur myth. Infamy of Crete. The past year plays on repeat in my mind, insistent, stereoscopic. I think of how you used to love me, and it makes me sick. I walk with the light at my back so I can scan the shadows for your form, those iron shoulders, those lofty horns. I do not need a ball of string. The labyrinth itself unwinds beneath my feet, shifts at my back. Get away, you beast. Get away, you beast.
Damn.
Yeah. I'm not
Built
bitter.
it.
Here's one about psychosis, and it is called I Am a Prophet, and Yes, I Am a God. It's about like religious delusions. Oh, but this suffering is a sacrament, lying backwards off of the bed, arms outstretched in a parody of piety and paroxysms of guilt. Oh, but the absurd mirrors the sublime. This scene is as ridiculous as it is religious. The buzzing of fluorescent lights in my blood and the skin of my teeth, the only scourge upon my cheek mascara, and not pox or plague. And yet a holy hush descends, as if I am hallowed, as if I am blessed. Jesus of Nazareth had skin like mine. Muhammad spoke the language from which I draw my name. My bones are the bones into which Al-Qudus blew life. Oh, but I am a portent of the divine.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
I'm kind of making fun of myself in that poem, too. This one is called Firebrand. I hope you burn yourself on the words that I've given you. I hope the soft skin of your fingertips bubbles up with heat and wanting, 1,000 petty thieveries of syntax. I hope you can never touch anything ever again without thinking of me. Yeah.
Woo. Okay.
This one is called 7 Ajwa Dates, and it is based on something in the Quran that says that if you eat 7 Ajwa dates in the morning, then magic cannot touch you all day. I have the claws of a gargoyle and the mouth of one too. I, sirens screech, harpies scream, scold, spitfire, shrew. I, she-witch, shawafa with my oil and lead. I, termagant, torturer with my hatchet and screw. I with the skin of a snake. I with the maw of a beast. I with the will of a jinni and the fire of one too.
Yes.
And a shawafa is a Moroccan witch. So a lot of the inspiration for this book and for making it about witchcraft was the stereotype that Moroccans, and especially Moroccan women, are like witches and they're going to like steal your man.
Oh, man.
No interest
Jeez.
in that. No, because it's used to like cover up for like Arabs' sex tourism. Anyway, here's a love poem. Rise and shine. Daybreak is a vial of liquid amber spilt out against the sky when I wake up. There is enough warmth between us, I think, to coax the very sun into existence. The press of you against my back, the swell of you within my chest, the breath and motion of people like us, drowsy in our crowds of blankets. You stir behind me, and it blinks its bleary eyes. Here's another 14-year-old Najia poem. Albatross. I've swallowed everything, but still I wake reeling, heavy and beleaguered with longing to wrench, giddily free from corset lace, stick pin, dead weight, anchoring me, leaden to the bedpost. Probably also about psychiatric medication, actually. This one I wrote just before publishing this book, and it is called Hell is Murky, which is a Macbeth quote, because I'm a pretentious ass. You're dark as plum juice, heady as a wound, an ink violet stain that blooms in the pool of my throat, red, red wine that purples on my skin like a bruise. Blunder you, blemish you, arcanest mark, indelible scar, surest, sweetest sorcery that ripens in my mouth like fruit. This one is also about that abuser, and it is called perdre or produire, which are two different French words and one that are one letter apart, and one means lasting and one means lose. I loved you as I am going to lose you, steadily and without artifice, like the clearing of floodwaters, like the healing of a wound. There is something within me that does not permit permanence, something rancid inside that slowly wears through. I cannot keep. I lose. I lose. But I am determined this time to do it gracefully, to make it into a skill that I can perfect, a performance that commands awe, a sideshow of precious things slipping through my fingers. Somewhere, behind a curtain, on a rickety platform surrounded by strangers, I am losing you as I have loved you, willingly and without reservation, with the depth of an ocean, with the tenderness of a bruise.
Yes. Ow.
This one is about lightening my skin for like 6 years, and then finally that first summer that I just left, that I decided fuck it, and I let myself get a tan, and it's a very dramatic poem about tanning. And it's called Fool's Gold. An early September afternoon, and summer's drunk down to the dregs, golden and lukewarm. This is the first year in 6 that I've allowed myself a sip, then several long swallows of daylight, my skin darkening until it seems I have a facsimile of sun in each pore. It is not yet too cool for a fine sheen of sweat to gather on my arms. In the shifting light of the season, they glitter like pyrite.
Oh.
Yes. 3 more from this book. Here's another 14-year-old Najia poem. Beggar. I am not a stumbling place, a pole for your crooked heart to climb. You couldn't love me anymore if my words were ruts meant to grab your wheels, could you? I didn't construct my castle just to receive your stones at the windows.
Yeah.
14-year-old me just pretending that she had dated anyone.
Convincing. That's mad convincing.
Penultimate poem, also about this abuser. I should thank him for send him a gift basket. Thanks for all these poems, Connor. It's called Phineas. I wasted a year of my life. So many outpourings of my heart, love like a rind down a garbage disposal. I will grow a new year from the stump of the old one. I will grow a new heart from the stone of the old one. I will grow a new love from the pit of my stomach, and it will obliterate the old one. Last one, which I wrote when I was 15, and which formed the beginning of this book's concept, is called Salem. And it is a poem in 4 parts? Yes, 4. 1. The bright scarlet egg of dawn nests in my head. When it is time, it will crack my skull like a shell and be born. 2. I have a witch's fingers and a witch's eyes, rough pewter lenses through which I view the world. I have sabotaged their crops, I have plagued their children, I have eaten their livestock in the night, so they say, and I hear the whispers in the streets. They are willing to kill for their conviction, though I am not willing to die for it. 3. I am no longer human. I've been branded with an ugly mark of fear and desperation, one terse syllable that cuts like a switch. 4. A thin reddish line splits the horizon. I set my ribs on hinges so they can get to my heart. A damp wooden platform, a rough rope necklace. I am not a Spartan carried home on his shield. This is not an honorable death.
Woo!
Yeah.
Go on.
So good.
Okay, so that was the first part of the reading.
Part 1. Thus begins part 2, which is more recent stuff that I've written in the past year since I released this book. And actually, I didn't write a lot at all, like the first year after I released that book, and then I think I was like creatively just like a feat, you know. And then this past April, when it was time for NaPoWriMo, I just cranked a bunch of stuff out. Why is this not loading? Huh, okay. You guys. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Just saying the lightning in the background was
Great.
The dramatic,
Yeah.
the drama.
That's why I was just snapping it in like in the middle of nowhere.
That's
when,
so
like, there was
aesthetic.
nothing. Yeah.
Mother Nature supports me.
Let it be
my
known.
daughter.
Yes. Okay. This is the first
You're doing great,
poem.
sweetie.
This is the first poem that I wrote for NaPoWriMo, and I was it was getting late because it was still like during the semester. I had a bunch of schoolwork to do, and I'm like, okay, I know that I started a poem on the scrap of paper somewhere. I'll finish that one. I'll post it. I'll call it a day. I couldn't find that damn poem, so instead I wrote a poem about not being able to find that poem. So it still worked out, and it's called Process. It's called On Losing a Poem That I Had Just Begun to Write on a Scrap of Paper Somewhere.
Beautiful.
The silly thing tottered off when it was not yet fully formed. It must have decided that it liked itself rather better as 3/4 of a thought. Something that wasn't quite bound and finished off. Something entitled to scamper about in its incompleteness until it grew to a mythological size. That'll teach you to trust in the loyalty of things. Can't even try to give something breath lest it wander off to spite you with its waywardness.
Cute.
Very nice.
That is super cute.
Playful one. Next one is called Forceless. There's a devilish howl, guttural chant that would rise from my bowels if it could, though it can't. There's a wickedness waiting, peculiar curse. I would give fire to hating if I durst, though I shan't. My tongue for the metal to spit out bile raw, my kingdom for the wherewithal to carry out my law.
The
This one
drama.
is called Appetite, and it's kind of like Rind, and then it's like a poem about food, but it kind of sounds like it's about sex too, and you're not really sure.
I mean, because what is sex? Food.
Never heard of it. Appetite. I know that there's a full meal here if I could just get my fingers in it. Already now I halfway feel it, sticky with oil, reeking with sweetness. I know that there's enough to sate me if I could just get my tongue around it. Crack it open like a yolk-glutted egg and suck at its shell till it yields me its juices. There's enough to slake desire in this if I could once get in the thick of it. I know that there's a full meal here. I'm deathly, sickly sure of it.
That was about sex. I don't care. Start it out there.
Rita's interpretation.
We support that. This one is called An Arabian Sonnet, which is a sonnet that has the rhyme scheme A, 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 B, 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 C, 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 D, 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 E, 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 which is not easy in English. You might as well demand I stop the dew as ask me to explain the heft and hue of teeming life that chokes the water through. That close, slow-budding love that grew for you in mounding cowslips dripping in the gloom, and reeds and rushes rustling up their plumes, and fizzing tufts of green like algal blooms, as sleepy as the downy crowns of mushrooms, spore flourishing with cap and stem and stalk, ubiquitous and soft and white as chalk, my body the marshland, my heart the lock that bore you, host-like as you blew. Don't fall to reasoning love's exuberant sprawl. Might as well ask life why it thrives at all.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. I had to pretend that I had the caught merger for that one, which I don't. Those two vowels aren't the same for me.
No one knows.
Well, they do know. I just said it. This one is called Waxwork. I used to imagine myself more like the match than like the flame. My body a candle wick, love a flicker up my spine. I've changed, I think, and I'm not now so unresisting. But still, it would be something to be consumed and not found wanting.
Damn it, Gio.
Zan.
Woo!
This one is called Onus. I woke up today in a mood for salvation, and fed my cactus a thin trickle of water like a fastidious or a begrudging lover, leveraged to steady a massing of days into something that could be counted and weighed, impotent augury, a quick, careful ache. I feel like a bundle of railroad ties that are ready and itching to be laid out quite straight. This is another one about being mixed race. Still, I'm sorry. And it is called Cruor. I'm newly sweltering with love for it. That gore so tenacious and hardy with life, so purple and vivid and livid with it, rushing through its conduits, syrup sweet and viscid. A fixed violet strain, neither stain nor contagion, but the very innermost guts of the thing, the thick, dark, shore roots of it, the bits of it that shoot and sprout, the bits of it I've tried to rout, but blood will out, and blood will out, and blood will out, and out, and out.
Yes.
I saw somebody like right there. I'm like, what the fuck? Hello.
They just want to listen. They just
You're invited.
But come to this side, motherfucker. Shit. Be a creep.
Oh, this one's called Prometheus. I wonder what it must have been to be the first person to speak poetry. That daring predecessor, audacious ancestor who stole its primordial fire from the gods and breathed it. Imagine the spunk, imagine the guts of it. I wonder if the whole world stopped, astonished, fumbled for a moment in its awe, and then moved on again, calm, as if something at the very base of it had grown itself into resplendent fruit at last. Perhaps it was a man in the first sudden delightful shock of his own cleverness who struck that metaphorical, phantasmagorical flint, said something with a lyric ring to it. Or perhaps it was a woman sharing her desire, not knowing that she was doing anything spectacular, but merely wanting, with her own primordial fire, to be touched.
Oh.
This is a poem about childhood abuse. It's not graphic. It's called Extremophile. And I wrote it in the margins of my oceanography notes when we were learning about underwater environments.
Love it.
Home had been to me a sick, noxious sheen, an acid wash that wore me lava smooth, glowing like glass, repugnant with ash, a thing that would break if you handled it at all, or at least pull sharply into itself like the plumes of a tube worm, like the flesh of a snail. So I formed limpet-like in the black, smoking gut of that miniature hell, Dante's Inferno at 1/16th scale, that hell that convinced me that love wasn't love unless it had a sulfurous smell. I've used the word gut like 3 times in the past 3 poems. I'm just realizing now.
It's a good word.
Yeah, it's a good word. This one is called, it's a working title. That which can prosper, though you've tried to make it die, must always be the worst kind of monster. I am born savage, or I birth myself so. Birth myself a sweltering of tongues, birth myself the thing at the underside of things. I create myself baneful and hateful and holy, with as many horrid heads as Hydra, as many hearts, as many bodies. A thing that can regrow and re-thrive endlessly. I birth myself a barbaric creature, with the terrible strength I dredged forth from my hurt, with my claws and my fur that I forged in the dirt. This is a poem that I wrote for my girlfriend, and it's based on a quote from an imam that includes, there are 4 gems in the body of the son of Adam that are removed by 4 things. The gems are intellect, religion, shame, and good deeds. Desire removes shame. And the poem that I wrote based on that quote is, Desire removes shame, and I want you. Yes, I do. In a way that precludes all else. In a way that's religion in itself. With a want that's the wellspring of everything holy. Exquisite as sorcery are two women's bodies. Desire removes shame, and I want you. Yes, I do. Oh, this one's called Masquerie, and it's about makeup. I wear makeup more to look garish than to look beautiful. I want to be a nightmarish hag at least as much as I want to be desirable. If I allure, it must be only as a fishhook allures, a bright, showy bauble with its hard, ancient hatred glinting always just under the surface. Oh, that one's a song. Oh, this one is called Anti-Ode. It's spring, and the birds will sing tomorrow morning, whether or not I write a poem about it. And they won't much care if I call them blithe spirits, and there aren't any real skylarks here anyway. And the time will churn through its constant murmurings, regardless of how I work to describe it. And the broad, bright day will unpeel itself, and scrape the evening down to its flay.
Poem sounds so pretty.
Thank you. I'm almost done. This one is called Venom, and it's another one that I wrote in oceanography class. I should send that professor a gift basket too. Lots of fruit to send out. I could be a sea urchin, giving you my barrenness, body plated and wicked with spines, purple as dried gore. Or else I'd be a starfish, devouring you in polyps. My mouth peculiar destruction, my love a crown of thorns. And that references urchin barons and crown of thorns starfish, which are both things that you can look up if you feel like. This one is called Partition, and it is about colonialism and colonization of Morocco, and it is a bit heavy if you need to turn off for like a minute. In 1904, France and England ceded control of a bit of Morocco, severing off much of the rift, like beheading a vital body, and presenting it to Spain as a gift, such that the ancestral population needed special permission to pass between one bit and another. In the 1920s, Spain invaded that fatal slice of land for the iron in its mountains, but it'd be heavy-handed to point out that there's also iron in blood, and severed villagers' heads from their bodies, genitals from their bodies, ears from their bodies, and displayed them on their fort walls and paraded them on the terrible spikes of their guns and held them up by their hair, smiling for cameras, and presented them to lovers and family and Spanish nobility as gifts. What I'm saying is that there is a connection between these two things, but if I name it, they will no doubt try to sever that, too.
Whoa. That was a lot.
This one is called Ecclesiastes 7:26 because the first bit is a quote from a translation of Ecclesiastes 7:26, and then the next three bits are written by yours truly. And I have found a woman more bitter than death, who is the hunter's snare, and her heart is a net, and her hands are bands. And I have found a woman in the sickness of her sin, 2 eyes like amber flints, twin hooks to reel me in. I have found a woman who was larger than my life, with a dread, colossal body that would not bend into mine. I have found a woman who would not be swallowed down, and I called her sweetness acid because it rankled on my tongue. This one is called Sty. Do you know I'm getting fed up with this, living off of your grime? That kitchen midden that you call conversation, your touch molded over and sodden with slime. The next time you decide to give me that slop, to leave me with your off-scourings and dare to call it love, you'll find I've arisen and sloughed your shit off. I can starve on scraps just as well on my own.
The shade.
This one is called Rhapsody in C, and it is kind of in a sonnet form, but it also is free in terms of its syllable structure, so some lines have many fewer syllables than others. I mean to speak of myself without blushing, and leave the delicate flushing to white ladies in novels. All the ungoverned rushing of my blood couldn't stain my cheek. Its crushing wine would bruise my insides and leave me opaque. I mean to take the full measure of myself and find nothing wanting, to slake the dire resoundings of my desire on the pitch and quake of my own heart within my chest, that which I love best and most fiercely, that heart which I have pressed inviolate to other hearts within other breasts. I mean to loose myself from all moorings and the dead, stilted shorings that propped me up, to nod to the passions that I have been enduring, and yield myself to their strange, dark lurings. All right, and then I have two more, and these are the two that have never been released anywhere except for right here in the notes on my phone.
Exclusive.
Yeah, I think I texted them to Audie, but like, that's not releasing. I can find it. I'll always believe in the diligence, the absolute steady, ineffable patience of these brown girls, these black girls with their long, long hair, working steady, gentle, ineffable fingers through those tresses, those masses, those absolute madnesses of hair. God, as if it were a sacrament, something to ply endlessly with sweetness. The eggs and honey and oils and bending like a pilgrim to wash that strong, dark rope slowly in the kitchen sink. To get something of such utter fragility to grow to such an eminence, Lord, if my back is strong and firm and patient enough to bear these coils and coils, this black, heavy tapestry, this thickness of years, then it's strong and firm and patient enough to bear anything, anything. And this last one is very heavy, so if you need to, don't feel bad about that. And it is because I watched a movie that showed an Algerian man commit suicide and then had his body there on screen, and it is about journalism and art and literature that shows and news that shows the dead bodies of brown and black people in a way that you don't really see the dead bodies of white people, and it's currently untitled. They killed you to exact sympathy for you, since no one could have sympathy for you alive. They killed you through a camera's lens, malignant eye, voyeur's prerogative, to see everything just as it happened, to see you dying, to see you lying there, the rise of your blood, a blunted sprout, a thin, dead pool, something worn out. They'll repeat this killing like a circus trick, half a shilling for a death and then cheaper, dusting you off and bringing you back to life again, just to make the murdering worthwhile, drawing in a breathless crowd around you instead of reverence, instead of a shroud, instead of letting you close your eyes. They killed you because your body was worth more with no breath in it. They killed you to make piecemeal of your narrative. They killed you to make a point about you instead of letting you speak. They killed you for the shock and awe of it, the oh my God of it, the sideshow grit of it. They brutalized you to make art about brutality. They killed you and they thought that was love, but it wasn't. They killed you because they only knew how to love you by killing you. They killed you because they best loved you dead. I love you dead because I loved you alive. The rise of your blood, the rise of mine, a gash of tulips, an open mouth, something that something grows out of. I love you because I've known you, because I felt you, because I am you. When you're tired of making your circuit, being endlessly exhumed, stage lit, pedaled out. When you're tired and worn out with it, the pitiful slime of it, the come one, come all of it, come to me. And I'll look at you to see you, and I'll feel you, and then I'll look away. Come to me when you're tired, and I'll close your eyes.
Yes.
And
So
lights.
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
And lights, we're good. Thank you. Thanks to everyone who
Thank you for
tuned
tuning
in.
in. I love you.
Thank you. Good night.
Damn.